Welcome to the channel, Seekers of the Lost Tales of Middle-earth. Today we unearth one of Tolkien's most tantalizingly unfinished stories. A tale that, had it been completed, might have reshaped our understanding of his entire legendarium. What if I told you there existed a story buried within the annals of the Silmarillion and the history of Middle-earth? A story that could have changed everything. A tale of fate and free will, of elves and men, of life and death, and of an ancient prophecy unfulfilled. Stay with us as we explore the tale of Eärendil, Tolkien's most elusive and unfinished legend. Deep within the heart of Tolkien's writings lies the story of Eärendil the Mariner, a tale that was meant to be the crowning legend of the Silmarillion. Eärendil, the half-elven wanderer who sailed into the west, was intended to be the great bridge between the Elder Days and the world of the Lord of the Rings. His voyage was to culminate in a plea before the Valar, leading to the downfall of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. But despite its importance, Tolkien never completed a full narrative of Eärendil's journey. We have fragments, scattered verses, outlines, and even versions of the tale from the Book of Lost Tales to the later Silmarillion drafts, but never the complete saga as Tolkien envisioned it. Why did Tolkien struggle with this story? The answer lies in the complexity of Eärendil's role. Unlike the tragic yet complete arcs of Beren and Luthien or Turin Turambar, Eärendil's tale was meant to be both an ending and a beginning. He was to be the savior of the First Age, but also the harbinger of the fate of elves and men for all the ages to come. His voyage into the West and his audience with the Valar were not merely heroic deeds. They carried metaphysical and theological weight that Tolkien wrestled with. In later writings, he even considered changing the nature of Eärendil's mission, reflecting his ever-evolving thoughts on elves, immortality, and the doom of men. If Tolkien had completed this story in full, how might it have changed Middle-earth? The implications are vast. Eärendil, in many ways, is the prototype of Aragorn, a figure caught between two worlds, fated to bear the burdens of both. But whereas Aragorn chooses mortality, Eärendil's story is one of transcendence, of venturing beyond the known world and attaining a fate unlike any before or after. His tale would have solidified the connections between the divine interventions of the Valar and the mortal struggles of Middle-earth, giving us a clearer vision of Tolkien's grand design. Yet, Tolkien's own hesitations and revisions suggest that he was never fully satisfied with the balance between destiny and free will in Eärendil's tale, leading to its perpetual incompleteness. But there is more to uncover. What are the surviving versions of Eärendil's story, and how do they differ? And what do they tell us about Tolkien's vision for the ultimate fate of Middle-earth? Stay tuned as we delve into the lost fragments of this unfinished legend in the next section. To understand why the tale of Eärendil was never fully realized, we must look at the surviving fragments of the story, which exist in various forms across the Book of Lost Tales, the Silmarillion, and the history of Middle-earth. These texts reveal the shifting nature of Tolkien's thoughts on Eärendil's journey, his character, and even his role in the grand tapestry of Arda. One of the earliest versions of Eärendil's tale appears in the Book of Lost Tales, written between 1917 and 1920. Here, Eärendil is described as a great mariner who sets out on a desperate voyage to Valinor. Unlike later versions, this early account is far more mythic, portraying Eärendil as a semi-divine wanderer, sailing through enchanted seas filled with strange wonders. There are references to lands unseen by mortal or elven eyes, celestial islands, and even a great battle between the forces of darkness and the Valar in the heavens. However, even at this early stage, Tolkien struggled with how to frame Eärendil's arrival in Valinor. Did the Valar welcome him as a hero, or did they judge him for breaking the ban against mortals setting foot in the Undying Lands? This moral tension would continue to trouble Tolkien in later drafts. By the time Tolkien compiled the Quenta Silmarillion in the 1930s, Eärendil's story had been condensed into a more structured myth. He was now firmly positioned as the last hope of both elves and men, sailing to Valinor not just as an explorer, but as an emissary pleading for aid against Morgoth. This version introduced many elements that would remain central to the legend. Eärendil's marriage to Elwing, the Silmaril that guided his path, and the eventual intervention of the Valar leading to the War of Wrath. But even here, much was left unsaid. How did Eärendil overcome the perils of the Enchanted Seas? What trials did he face before reaching the shores of Aman? These questions haunted Tolkien, and rather than providing definitive answers, he left gaps in the narrative, seemingly unwilling to lock the tale into a final form. Decades later, in The War of the Jewels, a volume of the history of Middle-earth, we see Tolkien attempting to refine the story once more, but now with new theological implications. Here, Eärendil's fate became tied to one of Tolkien's greatest philosophical dilemmas: the division between the immortal fate of elves and the mysterious destiny of men. Should Eärendil, a half-elf, be allowed to enter Valinor? If so, what did that mean for the divine laws set forth by Ilúvatar? Tolkien's later writings suggest that he was uneasy with the idea of any mortal being granted entry into the Undying Lands without consequences. This led to a major revision, one in which Eärendil does not simply reach Valinor as a hero, but as a supplicant judged by the Valar, who ultimately transform him into something beyond both elf and man. These inconsistencies and shifts in tone reveal why the story was never completed. Tolkien was caught between different versions of Eärendil. Was he a mythical voyager, a tragic exile, or a Christ-like intercessor? Each draft edged closer to a definitive narrative, but never quite reached the final step. And this perhaps is why Eärendil's tale remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries of Middle-earth. Yet the most intriguing question remains: what was Tolkien's last known version of Eärendil's fate? And how might it have changed everything we know about Middle-earth's mythology? Join us in the next section as we explore Tolkien's final, most radical vision for Eärendil. As Tolkien's vision for Middle-earth evolved, so too did his understanding of Eärendil's ultimate fate. In his final years, he revisited the legend with profound theological and metaphysical considerations, leading to an even more mysterious and unfinished version of the tale. One of the most striking revisions appears in Morgoth's Ring, a volume of the history of Middle-earth that delves into Tolkien's later philosophical writings. Here, Tolkien redefined the fundamental laws governing the fates of elves and men. He introduced a concept known as the Doom of Mandos, which stated that men must die and leave the world, while elves remained bound to it. But Eärendil, being both elf and man, posed a unique challenge. How could he fit into a world where the fates of his two heritages were so sharply divided? Tolkien's solution was to place Eärendil outside of both fates, transforming him into a celestial being who no longer belonged to Arda in the same way as other creatures. This change had immense implications. It meant that Eärendil's voyage to Valinor was not just a plea for help, but also a test, one that determined whether the world's cosmic balance could be altered. When Eärendil reached the shores of Aman, he was no longer merely a hero. He was a disruption, a paradox in the order of the universe. The Valar could not let him return to Middle-earth as a mortal, nor could they simply allow him to stay among them as an immortal elf. Instead, he was lifted into the heavens, sailing the skies in his ship, Vingila, forever bearing the light of the last Silmaril. But even this version of the story was left incomplete. In later notes found in The War of the Jewels, Tolkien considered yet another variation, one that suggested Eärendil's journey was not merely physical, but spiritual. In this version, his final voyage was not across the sea, but through a mysterious path beyond the circles of the world. A phrase Tolkien used sparingly, but with great significance. This idea implied that Eärendil had not just sailed to Valinor, but had passed into a realm beyond even the knowledge of the Valar, perhaps even into the presence of Ilúvatar himself. If Tolkien had completed this version of the tale, it would have radically changed our understanding of Middle-earth's cosmology. It would have confirmed that some mortals, through great deeds, could transcend the known world. It would have also provided a stronger theological foundation for later figures like Aragorn, whose destiny as the King of Gondor was tied to his acceptance of mortality. Eärendil's transformation into a celestial figure would have served as a direct precursor to the later theme of men seeking their ultimate fate beyond the confines of Arda. However, Tolkien never finalized these ideas. He left behind notes and drafts, but no definitive version of Eärendil's fate exists. This ambiguity has led to endless speculation among scholars and fans alike. Was Eärendil meant to be a saint-like figure, a cosmic guardian, or even a being who had glimpsed the mind of Ilúvatar? Yet one thing is certain. Had Tolkien completed the tale of Eärendil, it would have been one of the most profound and transformative stories in his entire legendarium. But why did he never finish it? What held him back from writing the final chapter of this great voyage? In the next section, we explore the deeper reasons behind Tolkien's struggle with this tale and what it reveals about his creative process. Why did Tolkien, a man so devoted to crafting the myths of Middle-earth, never complete the tale of Eärendil? The answer lies not just in the complexity of the story, but in the very nature of Tolkien's creative process. Tolkien was above all a perfectionist. He rewrote and revised his stories endlessly, often leaving them in a state of flux rather than settling on a single definitive version. Eärendil's tale, perhaps more than any other, suffered from this relentless refinement. In letters to his publishers and friends, Tolkien frequently mentioned his dissatisfaction with the Silmarillion, admitting that he struggled to make it coherent as a single narrative. Eärendil's story was supposed to be the climax of that work, the great resolution of the First Age's tragedies. But Tolkien could never bring himself to finalize it. There was also a deeper, more personal struggle. Eärendil's journey symbolized something greater than just a heroic quest. It was a meditation on hope, sacrifice, and the boundaries between mortality and divinity. Tolkien, a devout Catholic, infused his mythology with themes of faith and redemption. In some ways, Eärendil's voyage echoed the idea of an unattainable paradise, a longing for something beyond the limits of the world. This theological weight may have made it difficult for Tolkien to decide how the tale should end. Should Eärendil remain forever in the sky as a guiding light? Or should he have found a final home beyond the circles of the world? Tolkien seemed to hesitate between these possibilities, leaving the story forever unfinished. Another challenge was the shift in Tolkien's focus after The Lord of the Rings. In his later years, he became increasingly absorbed in revising the mythology of the First Age, especially concerning the nature of elves, men, and their ultimate fates. The War of the Jewels contains late writings where Tolkien grapples with profound metaphysical questions about the afterlife of men and the role of the Valar. As he revised these concepts, Eärendil's story became more difficult to resolve. Was his fate a blessing or a burden? Was he a figure of divine intervention? Or was he trapped between worlds, forever wandering the heavens? These unresolved questions may have prevented Tolkien from ever finishing his tale. It is also worth considering that the tale of Eärendil was always meant to be fragmented. In The Lord of the Rings, Eärendil is known to mortals only through songs and legends. Bilbo's poem in Rivendell gives us only a glimpse of his journey, a vision wrapped in myth. Perhaps Tolkien realized that leaving Eärendil's story incomplete mirrored the way legends work in reality. Never fully known, always subject to different interpretation. And so, the tale of Eärendil remains one of the greatest unfinished legends of Middle-earth. Its absence leaves a space for imagination, inviting us to wonder what might have been. If Tolkien had completed it, would it have reshaped our understanding of the Valar, of elves and men, of the cosmic order of Arda itself? We may never know. But in its very incompleteness, the story of Eärendil achieves a kind of mythic immortality, forever sailing the seas of our imagination, just as Vingalot sails the skies above Middle-earth. But now we turn the question to you. What do you think Tolkien intended for Eärendil's final fate? Was he meant to be a saint-like figure, or something even greater? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey into the depths of Tolkien's legendarium, be sure to like and subscribe for more tales of Middle-earth yet to be explored. And so, as we close the pages of this unfinished legend, we are left with a story both incomplete and eternal. Eärendil, the mariner who sailed beyond the mortal world, remains a beacon in Tolkien's legendarium, a symbol of hope, sacrifice, and the longing for something beyond reach. Perhaps Tolkien never finished his tale because, like the light of Eärendil's Silmaril, it was meant to guide us rather than be fully grasped. Yet, the absence of a completed narrative does not diminish Eärendil's significance. If anything, it makes him more mythical. His story is scattered across poems, drafts, and revisions, each version adding another layer of mystery. And in that mystery, Tolkien achieved something profound. He allowed Eärendil to become what all great myths aspire to be: timeless, ever-changing, and forever inspiring those who seek to understand them. But what do you think? Should Tolkien have completed the tale of Eärendil, or does its unfinished nature make it even more powerful? How do you see Eärendil's role in the grand scheme of Middle-earth? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this journey through Tolkien's most unfinished story has ignited your passion for Middle-earth, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the lost tales of Arda. There are many more stories left to uncover, and together we will continue to explore the hidden corners of Tolkien's legendarium. Until next time, may the stars shine upon your path, and may the light of Eärendil be ever in your heart.